Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on applied thermodynamics. Today we are continuing our topic of fuel-air cycle. So you might be surprised that why we are continuing this topic. So first of all, let's go back to our main topic. That is, let's go back to our syllabus over here. So here it is fuel, air and actual cycles. So the videos that you have seen previously are fundamentals before this actual chapter. That is, I have tried to explain you about the standard air cycles, that is Otto cycle, diesel cycle and dual cycle and its variations. And this topic which is actually as a part of your syllabus is more towards IC engine. So what we will do, that we will not go in each and every detail of this chapter, but I will give you a very quick overview of few topics over here. There may be some part which I consider as a part of self-study. You may note down this, that here I may give you assumptions for fuel and air cycle as a self-study, then change in internal energy and enthalpy due to specific heat and isentropic expansion with specific heat. This is a part of thermodynamics that you can see. The remaining part will be discussed here in today's lecture. So let's begin. So our first topic is variation of specific heat. That is our first topic. And here, for all gases except monoatomic gases, as the temperature increases, there is always an increase in specific heat. Let me repeat this part, that for all gases except monoatomic gases, there will be an increase of specific heat with temperature. There is no fixed rule or regarding the relation between the specific heat and temperature. However, there is a range and some equations are followed. So let's say that first case is 3300 Kelvin less than T, that is temperature, less than 1500 Kelvin. If such kind of formula is there, if this kind of range is there, then we can say that Cp is equal to A plus Kt and Cv is equal to B plus Kt. So it can be clearly seen here that the increase in temperature with increase in specific heat with temperature follows a linear relationship. It is very similar to y is equal to mx plus c. Now the second case, is temperature being greater than 1500 Kelvin. So in such case, Cp is written as A plus Kt plus, here it will be K1 and here it will be K2 T square. And similarly we can write down Cv is equal to A plus K2 T K1T plus K2T square. So as you can see that for higher temperatures the specific heat increase very rapidly with square of temperature, and here in both the cases if we take a difference between Cp and Cv, that is to obtain the gas constant, then R in both cases will be A minus B. Now what is the physical explanation behind the increase of specific heat with increase in temperature? So what happens that whenever we attempt to increase the temperature, the motion of atoms within the molecules also required to be increased. That is the fundamental law that we have studied in our science subjects also, that as the temperature increases the motion of atoms also increases. So what happens that in an attempt to increase the temperature, more amount of heat is actually consumed to increase the motion of atoms within the molecules. So the objective is to increase the temperature. However, the heat input which is provided with a goal to increase the temperature is consumed in increasing the motion of atoms inside the molecules. So that is the reason that for a given temperature rise, more amount of heat input is required at higher temperature of the gases. So that is the reason that why specific heat increases with increasing temperature. And now let's focus on this diagram over here. Then it can be clearly seen the graph is between the temperature in Kelvin and specific heat at constant volume, that is Cv. So you can see that as the temperature increases, there is an increase in specific heat. It is more visible for water vapor and carbon dioxide over here. And for inert gas like nitrogen as well as for air and oxygen, after certain temperature it nearly becomes constant. So there is no effect of temperature. Now here this is the graph which shows the losses due to variation of specific heat. So this graph is for loss due to variation in specific heat. So here in this graph, it is a PV diagram of our Otto cycle, and as you can see, the dark curves and lines show the standard cycle without any losses, that is 1, 2, 3 and 4. And as I was telling you that as the temperature increases, the specific heat increases, and this results in loss. In first, you can see the first loss is observed in the compression stroke, that as the temperature increases, the specific heat also increases, which result in lower temperature during the compression stroke. So instead of what could have been T2 at the end of compression, it will be here, that is T2 prime. So at the end of compression stroke, the temperature is lower with variable specific heat. And the same is followed by the combustion curve here, that here there is the loss of, see, one more thing I want to mention over here, that actually this should have been pressure here, and the second thing is that even temperatures are low, so that was not wrong, that here the compression ratio slightly decreases, as well as the temperature also decreases, and during this combustion process, at the end of combustion process, the pressure is lower than the ideal case. So we are having a loss of pressure over here, as well as loss of highest temperature. Then this is the interesting thing to see, that 3 to 4 is, as expected, is the most ideal process. Then let us say that here, if we were having a constant specific heat, then the curve that was followed would have been 3 prime to 4 double prime with constant specific heat. C being constant. C stands for specific heat. However, as during the expansion stroke also the variation in specific heat is observed, so we will be getting the curve like 3 prime to 4 prime with variable specific heat. So that is all about loss due to variation in specific heat. And you can see here that the expansion work is also lower than the ideal work because of variation in specific heat. Now let's move forward to the next theory. Here, this theory is about dissociation. Or chemical equilibrium laws. So what is this kind of loss? That is actually the disintegration of gases or exhaust gases or burned gases at higher temperature. So what happens? The burnt gas is actually carbon dioxide in most ideal cases. That is, at the end of combustion, carbon dioxide is generated. However, if the temperature is higher, then this carbon dioxide is disintegrated into carbon monoxide and oxygen. And what happens that during this disintegration, heat is absorbed by this process of dissociation, and because the heat is absorbed, the temperature goes lower, and as the temperature goes lower, this process is reversible one, so that the carbon dioxide and oxygen again reassociate themselves, and carbon dioxide is regenerated, and they will also liberate that heat which was consumed previously. I will repeat this entire part again. So here let us take a process of the dissociation that we are having. Let us say the carbon dioxide, that is 2CO2, plus heat is consumed during dissociation, and it will be a reversible process such that we get carbon monoxide and plus oxygen. Similarly, we can write down about water vapor. So what happens that because of dissociation, the maximum temperature reduces because the heat is consumed during dissociation. So maximum temperature reduces, and when the reverse process of dissociation happens, then heat is liberated also, but it is too late when the heat is liberated. So here we can see, first of all, instead of 3 we are getting 3 prime as the result of dissociation. So maximum pressure and temperature already reduces because of this process, and here we may get 3 prime to 4 double prime if no reassociation happens. Reassociation happens, and 3 prime to 4 prime is with reassociation. So Why 3 to 4 prime is higher than 3 prime to 4 double prime? Because during reassociation the heat is liberated. That's why there will be a higher pressure and temperature while expansion stroke is happening, and ultimately this will result in loss of power and efficiency. And here in this curve also you can see, uh, as I was telling you, that as the temperature increases the dissociation occurs. So at higher temperature dissociation occurs, so carbon monoxide uh, increases, content of carbon monoxide increases. So here we have shown combustion percentage by volume on y-axis, and on x-axis we are having temperature. So it is clearly seen that with higher temperature carbon monoxide increases, and this is of our interest. This curve is more of our interest because we are focusing on generation of CO and H2O. So I was talking about this CO here in this process and H2 over here. So with increase in temperature the contents of products of dissociation increases, and as you can see with increase in temperature the content of CO2 and H2O decreases. Now let's move forward to our next topic over here. So what happens, that let us say that in the gases itself, the in burned gases itself, let us say that carbon monoxide and oxygen is present. What I am trying to say here, that let us say that as a part of product of combustion, let us say that carbon monoxide and oxygen is already present in the burned gases, not as a result of dissociation. Then this carbon monoxide and oxygen will prevent the process of dissociation. Okay, and see what happens if you focus on this figure, that is effect of dissociation on temperature at different mixture strength. So first we will be focusing on the correct mixture and the ideal case, that is no dissociation. So here with no dissociation the temperature which is maximum achieved is at correct mixture, and if it becomes lean, so here on the left hand side we are having lean mixture, and right hand side we are having rich mixture. Then on both the sides the temperature falls, as you can see. However, the fall in temperature is more visible with lean mixture, because less amount of heat energy is generated in lean mixture, so temperature fall is more visible here. So we are seeing a sharp slope, a sharp downfall in the temperature, and here also we observe the temperature fall because the mixture is rich and less oxygen is available. However, if you see dissociation, then the maximum so here the maximum temperature is achieved at somewhere over here, that is, let us say 10% of richness. At 10% of richness we achieve the maximum temperature, but this maximum temperature is surely up to 300 degrees Celsius lower than the ideal case, that is the ideal case of no dissociation. And let's move forward to our next figure, that is effect of dissociation on power. So here we are having air fuel ratio on x-axis and brake power on the y-axis. So in case of no dissociation, we achieve maximum power at correct mixture, that is over here, nearly 14.7 or 14.8. Brake power is maximum achieved, and as the mixture becomes lean or weak, there is a great fall in the brake power that is achieved, because the heat energy that is liberated is lesser, and maximum temperature is too low in case of weak mixture. So here the maximum temperature is too low, that's why we are observing this. And here the maximum brake power is obtained at somewhat rich mixture, that is also justified with the same graph over on the left hand side. So maximum power is achieved, maximum brake power is achieved with dissociation is at 10% richness, and this hashed portion shows the loss in brake power due to dissociation. So now let's move forward with our next theory, that is effect of compression ratio and mixture strength on efficiency. So here we can see that as compression ratio increases, the thermal efficiency also increases. That is quite evident for all curves. As air standard curve as it is, we achieve maximum thermal efficiency in case of air standard cycle, and as the richness of the fuel increases, the thermal efficiency decreases over here. And the fundamental reason behind increase in compression ratio and increase in thermal efficiency is there is more scope of expansion work. Now let's move forward to next figure here, that here on the x-axis we are having FR, that is relative fuel air ratio. So what is relative fuel air ratio? Let me write down over here. Relative fuel air ratio that is FR is equal to a ratio of actual air fuel ratio to chemically correct air fuel ratio. Okay, so that is the relative fuel air ratio, which is shown over here on x-axis, and on y-axis we are having the efficiency. So this vertical line at 1, that is the middle of this curve, shows the chemically correct relative fuel air ratio, where the actual fuel air ratio is equal to the chemically correct air fuel ratio, and this numbers show the compression ratio. So it is clearly seen that as the compression ratio increases, that is, if we see the upward trend of increasing numbers, then as the compression ratio increases, the efficiency also increases. However, at rich mixtures, the drop in efficiency is more visible than the lean mixtures. Now let's move forward to our next analysis over here, that on x-axis we are having same, that is relative air fuel ratio, and however on the y-axis we are having a different ratio, that is ratio of efficiencies, that is efficiency of fuel air ratio to efficiency of air standard cycle. So the condition is same, that as the richness increases, as the fuel air ratio, the relative fuel air ratio increases, the efficiency drops. And this curve is independent of compression ratio. Now the next is effect of mixture strength on thermal efficiency at a given compression ratio. So let's discuss that. In case of air standard theory, it is the thermal efficiency is independent of mixture strength, because there is no gases in air standard cycle, only air is present. So the thermal efficiency is independent of the mixture strength. However, if we see the fuel air theoretical cycle, then the efficiency is higher for lean mixture or weak mixture. For weak mixture the efficiency is higher, and as the richness increases in the mixture, then the efficiency drops. Why this is happening? Because with weak mixtures there will be a less energy input. In weak mixture there will be a less energy input. That means that there will be lower temperature. Lower temperature means there will not be losses due to the variable specific heat, as well as there will not be losses due to the dissociation. So because of that reason only, the thermal efficiency is good at weak mixtures, and it may reach to the theoretical efficiency, as can be seen over here. In actual curves, if we keep on reducing the fuel quantity, that is if we make more weak mixture, then the thermal efficiency also drops here, and it drops for rich mixture in all these three cases because of losses due to variable specific heat and the dissociation. Now the next theory is about the cycle power variation with respect to the mixture strength. So if we see the top curve, that is for air standard theory, the maximum power is obtained at the chemically correct mixture. That is quite evident over here. However, the maximum power which is obtained in fuel air theoretical cycle is at 10% richness in the mixture. However, if we make more rich mixture, then the efficiency drops. This is again because of the higher specific heat and chemical equilibrium losses, that is dissociation losses. Now let's move forward to our next theory, that is the effect of fuel air ratio on the highest temperature and highest pressure at different compression ratios. So let's first focus on the on x-axis we are having the mixture strength, that is percentage of chemically correct, and on y-axis we are having the temperature after combustion and pressure after combustion stroke. So here the maximum temperature that is being achieved is when the mixture is slightly rich. So as you can see, we don't get maximum temperature on 100%, we get maximum temperature on 106%. This is because at chemically correct ratio there is still some oxygen which is left. So if the richness of the mixture is slightly increased, that is, let us say it is increased by 5 to 6%, then that unused oxygen can be utilized to combust the fuel. For that reason we get the maximum temperature at 6% richness. However, if we further increase the richness, then there will be more formation of carbon monoxide and temperature will decrease. Now regarding the pressure here, for pressure it is not like that at 6% we are getting the maximum pressure, but we are getting the same at, let us say, 20 to 25% of richness. Now why this kind of difference is seen between highest temperature and highest pressure? Because the pressure P3 is followed by PV is equal to nRT. So here as the temperature is maximum over here, the molecules which are present increase at P3. So more number of molecules are present at P3. For that reason the maximum pressure is observed slightly beyond the 6%, that is nearly at 15 to 16% of richness. Why? Because the number of molecules has increased at the maximum temperature. So regarding the exhaust temperature and percentage of theoretical fuel, so here we are getting the highest exhaust temperature at correct mixture, that is expected. However, the difference, if you see here, that the maximum temperature T3 is obtained highest at highest compression ratio. but the maximum exhaust temperature is obtained at lowest compression ratio. So why this is happened? Because at higher compression ratios, the piston has to do more work. Gas have to do more work on the piston, leaving less amount of energy towards the end of the stroke. Now let's move forward to our next topic over here is mean effective pressure versus percentage of theoretical fuel. So here also the maximum pressure, mean effective pressure is observed at slightly rich fuel air mixture. So the next topic is actually this graph has already been seen in previous theories, that is compression ratio versus efficiency of ideal and actual cycle. Now so we will not be discussing this, that compression ratio as increases the efficiency also increases. We are more interested towards the time losses on PV diagram. So what happens, that what is the time loss? See, generally it is assumed that the combustion is instantaneous. However, in actual practice the combustion is never instantaneous, it takes some time. So this is the loss that is to be accounted for mixing the fuel and air as well as the combustion. So while there is some requirement of time for mixing as well as combustion, there will be some change in volume that takes place, and the crankshaft will usually turn about 40 degrees between the time when the spark occurs and the time of complete combustion. So when this happens, that is the sparking and the complete combustion, the crankshaft has moved by 40 degrees. So this is the finite time and it will affect the combustion. So because of this, the maximum pressure will not be generated when the volume is minimum, but it is produced after some time of top dead center. So here if we focus on the curve, then it is PV diagram, and this is the loss. It does not go from 1 to 2, but it goes from 1 to A and then A to B, because this is all because of the time loss over here. So what does the point 3 represents? Point 3 represents the ideal point when it is assumed that the combustion is instantaneous. So this hashed area shows the loss in the work. So because of that, here this is known as burning time loss or simply time loss. Then the next topic here is effect of spark timing. So what happens here, that because of the time loss, it is necessary that we prepone the sparking by some degrees of from top dead center. So if the spark is at top dead center, that is advance is 0, then we are getting efficiency of 24.1% only here. And as you can see here, that the curve is slightly different because of the time losses, and the hashed portion shows the loss in power. While here in this case, in the second figure, we have advanced the spark timing by 39 degree from the before the top dead center. So when such kind of advancement is done, the efficiency is still 23.9%. So instead of improving the efficiency, we have lost somewhere. So we need to optimize this, and in the third figure you can see that the optimum advance is between 13 degree to 26 degree, where we are improving the efficiency, that is 26.2%, which is highest in the three graphs. And in the next figure you can see the power loss by retarded ignition timing. So when it is 0%, sorry, it is 0 degree Celsius, then the efficiency is 24.1%, and as there is an advancement at 17 degree, we are getting highest efficiency. Now let's move forward to next theory, that is .7 shows the power loss by retarded ignition timing. So this is the degrees from optimum timing, and here we are having relative mean effective pressure. So it is maximum at the optimum timing, the mean effective pressure is maximum, and with retarded ignition timing, the relative mean effective pressure decreases. And the same can also be seen in the on the other side. Now the next is incomplete combustion loss. So it is impossible to obtain a perfect and complete combustion, and there is a fuel vapor, air and residual gases present in the cylinder before the ignition takes place. So what happens under these circumstances? There is a possibility that we can have oxygen, excess oxygen on one part of the cylinder and excess fuel in the another part. So some fuel is not burnt, and because of that carbon, or it burns partially, so carbon monoxide and oxygen remains present at the exhaust. As you can see over here, that as the richness of the fuel increases, the carbon monoxide content increases and carbon dioxide content decreases. So the next here is the combination of all losses. We can see here so time loss is around 6%, heat loss is 12%, exhaust loss is 2%. So this is the combined loss we can see here. And the next is exhaust blowdown loss. So the cylinder pressure at the end of exhaust stroke is 7 bars. So the exhaust valve, if it is opened at bottom dead center, then the piston has to do the work against the high pressure cylinder posting a part of exhaust valve. To repeat this part, the pressure at the end of exhaust stroke is 7 bar. So if the exhaust valve is opened at the bottom dead center, then the piston has to do work against the high cylinder pressures, and that will cause the exhaust stroke. So let us say that if we open the exhaust valve slightly early, then it will consume some of the expansion stroke. And so what happens that we need to do a compromise here, and exhaust valve is opened 40 degree to 70 degree before the bottom dead center. That will reduce the cylinder pressure halfway mark to the atmospheric pressure before the exhaust stroke begins. So that will help us in reducing the exhaust blowdown losses with opening of expansion valve at 40 degree to 70 degree at bottom dead before bottom dead center. So that is the end of today's lecture, and I have tried to cover the missing part from our previous lectures in this lecture. So I hope that you have understood this, and this will help you in your preparation part also. There are few topics that I left for you as a part of self-study, and I hope that you will be doing it by yourself. Thank you for watching this video.